lot of stuff in it. But the actual recording of there's no recording of the Zoom lecture, unfortunately.
Yeah, somebody actually has to physically remember to do this.
Thank you,
Yep.
Ann.
But we will have these, and somebody asked what blog. If you go to Villages of Santa Fe and look at the homepage on the blogs, it may be on the right-hand side, but it may roll off, but you may just have to click on the button on the right-hand side that says blogs, and you can go then to the different topics and click on that and see the YouTube.
Okay.
A couple of things I need to ask people who are coming in, please. I have a mom and dad login for Zoom, and if you'll unmute yourself and let me know who you are. And also, I think I just saw an iPad come in. Hold on a second. We will ask you starting June 1. Yeah, I have an iPad. If you'll unmute yourself and let me know who you are. And I think it was mom and dad's iPad or something also. I'm creating a cheat sheet on various people, but things like iPad, I can't even create a cheat sheet for because I have no idea. No, let me go get a, Sue Kosman wants to get in, and let me go send her a link. Hold on a second. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, hold on a second. Hey, Ambrose, you want to give a little information about BoomerTech while I go let somebody in?
Sure. Hello, everybody. We'll get started with the actual lecture proper in just a couple of minutes here. My name is Ambrose Ferber. I am the Associate Director of Technology at Santa Fe Prep and also the Chair of Computer Science at Santa Fe Prep. For a number of years now, up until just this last year, so Santa Fe Prep for many, many years now has run a community service program called the Teen Action Program, where students go out into the community and do all sorts of things, from building houses with Habitat for Humanity to helping out in elementary schools to going to senior living facilities, all sorts of different things. And about 5 years ago, Anne approached us to see if we would do at the time it was called Cyber Seniors. It's now is called BoomerTech. And the vision was that seniors would be able to come to the school and our students would help them with their technology, and we would be able to help people get the most out of their devices. And it was wildly successful, hugely popular, a lot of fun, great for the kids and the seniors who came in to see us. And as part of that, I would sometimes give lectures at the end of our sessions. And so we've developed kind of a lecture series. And so now in COVID times, especially because we can't have people on campus, the students are starting to come back to campus, but we still can't do as much as we did before with having like a full-on community service thing with people here on campus and helping with technology. So Anne asked me if I would do a lecture series in conjunction with AARP and Villages of Santa Fe. And that's what this is. So this is part 4, I believe, of the 6-part series. So we have 2 more in this. We are going to continue on through the summer. We're setting the dates for those. Those have not yet been set exactly, or the subject matter actually hasn't been set exactly yet. But stay tuned to Villages communication, stay tuned to AARP communication, and you'll be able to hear about those coming up this summer, and hope to see you there. So yeah, that's the lowdown on what this is and what we're doing here. And so Anne, are we ready to begin, or would you like to give it just another minute or so?
What time is it? We are at 1:01. No, I like to start on time. I'll
Okay.
continue to admit people, but I will actually mute everybody as you come in. And later on, we will have Q&A. And I just want to let you know, we have a lot of people. We're going to have probably 50 or 55 people registered. So if you have questions, please be best to put them in the chat so we can get to all of them. And if you do have a specific question for you personally, you can certainly put that in the chat. We can try to answer those things on a one-on-one basis, but we will try to let everybody have a chance to ask questions, but do try to put them in the chat and I can moderate that chat. So it's off to Ambrose. So we're talking today about passwords. We also are going to talk a little bit about how to keep yourself safe from fraud. So part of that is really safe passwords. All right, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, today we're mostly going to be talking about passwords. This is an extremely common topic that people would like to know more about, and that people have a lot of trouble with for a variety of reasons. So we're going to try and address a lot of the issues that people tend to have on surrounding passwords and how to create them, how to save them, all of that. And so it's gonna be a slightly interactive thing today. We're gonna all get, well, not all, but many of you will get a chance to participate in some fun stuff. So, and as Anne said, she'll be moderating chat. I will also, I have it open here, so I'll be casting a little glance over there every so often. I may miss some things. I will try and keep track. Sometimes I'll wait for a little while and get a few questions all at once. We'll also have a question and answer at the end. Before we get started on passwords, as Anne mentioned, we've got this AARP Fraud Watch Network thing, which I'm putting the little announcement up on the screen here, and you can sign up to get text messages of actual fraud alerts. So like when a new scam is kind of sweeping the nation, you know, and there's a particular thing that the people who watch this stuff are paying attention to, then you can get alerted of that. I'll tell you actually that I belong to a couple of these things here on campus. We use a couple of different tools to watch for scams and fraud and actual, you know, people attempting to attack our network. And just in case it matters to you, even us IT professionals definitely subscribe to these things, and we pay attention to what's going on around the country, what the current things are. And it can really help you sort of sift the legitimate contacts from the ones that are not so legitimate. In this announcement, there's also a couple of links that you can see there: the Fraud Resource Center from AARP and a scam tracking map, and the Spanish language version of this. Those links will be up on the Village's blog, so you can get to that same place where you can get these lectures, the presentations from these lectures and so forth. But if you want to quickly write down, and this particular slide is part of the presentation, so you can always get to it here and get that text number and code to sign up for text alerts. Good service. All right. First thing we're going to do here is a little test of passwords. This is a fun exercise. It's more fun when I have a bunch of people in the room and I can bring them up, but we're going to try this over Zoom anyway. Okay, so let me go ahead and I am going to, let me quickly grab this so that it is in my clipboard, and I am going to paste this into chat. And it's also, if you just go to howsecureismypassword.net, that will also work. And we can have everybody come over there. You don't do anything yet. And I will say that some of you, I hope at least some of you, are reluctant to actually enter a password here because you think that this might be a test of your safety and security and your privacy and protecting your information. A lot of people often are like, I'm not clicking on that link. I'm not entering my password. You're just trying to trick us. But no, this is actually legitimate. Your link, the password is evaluated using a technology that where the password you enter is never actually sent over the internet. It happens locally, right on your computer. Nobody is looking at that or storing it. I use this tool all the time, and everything is totally on the up and up. All right, so what I'd like now, I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen. I would like a volunteer, somebody from the audience, to volunteer to share their screen. There's at the bottom of your Zoom window, there should be a green button with like a little rectangle and an up arrow in it that says share screen. And if you so let me get a volunteer first. Who would like to volunteer to show us your, we wouldn't get to see your password, but just get a sense of how. Okay, Lynn Gary is jumping in on this. All right, that's awesome. And Lynn Gary has typed in her password, and it looks like it would take 100,000 years to crack. That is an example of a great password, but a very poor demonstration for this exercise. I was hoping to get somebody with a terrible password so we could see how awful everyone's passwords are. Can I get a somebody raising their hand maybe? Okay, Lynn, you can stop sharing your screen. Up at the top, there should be a little red thing up at the top of the Zoom window, and it should say, yeah, there you go. Somebody say in chat if you'd like to volunteer to show us your password. Don't be shy. It's all in good. Okay, Ben and or Bev. Excellent. All right. So Lazarliers, why don't you guys at the bottom of your screen click share. You'll get another window. Select the one that's got the how secure is my password in it, and then just click share, and you can type in your password, and we can see what that looks like. Aha, there we go. That's a perfect example. Thank you so much for being brave volunteers, where we can see now that this password would take exactly 1 minute to crack, for a computer to crack this password. So not super secure. Thank you so much, you guys, for doing. All right, you can stop sharing. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's have somebody else go ahead and share their screen with their password. And you can type the password in as we go. It's kind of fun to watch it doing it. Can I get one more volunteer from the audience, please? I would ask Ann to do it, but Ann probably has a really good password. Okay, Ann, great, thanks, Ann. Appreciate that. All right, so yeah, that green button at the bottom, it'll open up a new window. Select the screen and then click share. And you should be able to show your screen. Almost there, almost there. Do you need some help, Ann? Oh, yeah. No, there we go. Perfect.
No.
All right. Sharing your screen. Oh, so we're on the villages. Let's see. Can you open up the tab? Do you have it open already? Or you can just click the new tab button up at the top. You have a lot of tabs open. I'm a little bit concerned by this.
You should be.
This hurts me just a little bit, and it's just kind of like a little deep pain deep in my chest here, looking at all those tabs. So let's just use that page there. So just click in the location bar where it says villagesofsantafe.org.
No, I can't.
You can't click in there?
No, because it's covered up by the videos.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, we can stop the share, and we'll just I'll just demo some other stuff. But thank you, Ann. That's okay. Click up at the top of the screen, it should say stop sharing or stop share.
Ah, there it is. Thank you.
There you go. Perfect. No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now. All right. I'm going to enter a couple of ones that are, common. So like, for instance, password, the word password, which you would be amazed at how often this actually still gets used. And it doesn't even make a pretense of time here, right? It's just instantly. And even if we add like the ubiquitous 1, 2, 3, 4, that improves things a little bit, but 3 years in this estimation is still nowhere near long enough. It's not the kind of thing that we want to see. So let me show you my password. There's my password that I use for most things. We can see 8 nonillion years, which is sort of a ridiculous number, right? Not even sure. I mean, that is like, nonillion is probably many orders of magnitude greater than the number of grains of sand in the entire solar system, would be my guess. Like that's, I mean, it is a very, very large number. And as you can see, it's a long password. We're going to talk about that in a moment here. But yeah, so we can get a sense of like, you know, we've got passwords in this group everywhere from a minute to 8 nonillion years. And most passwords fall somewhere in the middle there, somewhere in between. How long is long enough? Well, we would love to see things that are in the order of at least thousands of years. If we could get things that were in the thousands of years, according to this tool, then we would feel pretty good about that. We'd also like to see the background of this turn green. You'll notice that I can do some passwords like this password 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that it's only 3 years, that it's 3 years, but the background is orange here. And down here at the bottom, we can see some other things here, like there's no character variety, possibly just a word and a number, right? So it's detecting some things. We'd love for that screen to turn green and be somewhere in the thousands or probably even tens of thousands of years. If we can get above that, so much the better. So let's talk about our strategies for how to do that. So what is it that actually does make a great password? Well, let's make a list together, shall we? I'm gonna go, you can unmute if you want. I'm also gonna open up the chat here for myself. Let's get some ideas for what you think, or even if it's things that you've heard or things that you believe probably make for a good password. Like, what are some elements? What are some of the features that we should have in a good password? Yes, and
Well,
all right, so numbers. Okay, so we want some numbers in there. It'd be nice if I could type properly. Harriet, did you say something?
I was going to say numbers and letters and have it, it's supposed to be at least 7 figures in it.
So we'll just
7 digits, but some of it could be number. There
Right,
needs to be some numbers as well as some letters, and also isn't there supposed to be like some like an exclamation point or a dash or something, one of those.
Okay.
What is
So
that category?
I'm seeing some, yeah, so special characters, right? So we've got like letters with uppercase, and then we want some special characters, right? Like punctuation and things.
That's what I think.
Yeah, so mixing stuff up. Yeah, so we've got more symbols, things like that. Yeah, so the special characters, those are all the symbols and punctuation that we have available to us.
Ambrose, I
Yeah.
heard that 2 passwords was kind of becoming popular. What do you feel about that?
What do you mean 2 passwords? Like 2 different words separated by a space, or?
2 separate passwords to get into your account now. Because people might be able to figure out your first one, but maybe not the second.
So my feeling, I feel like that's kind of needlessly complex and difficult to use. And it would be a rare thing. That's not something that you could choose to do. That would be something that the maker of the site would have to implement. They would have to implement a two-tiered password system where there would be one password that gets you to a second password field to enter. Yeah, so Anne is mentioning two-step verification, or what's often called two-factor authentication. We will talk a little bit about two-factor authentication if we have time. Two-factor authentication, I think, is one of the best solutions, which is different from two different passwords. Two-factor is where they send a code to your phone or to an email address or something else, some other device or some other system. And then in addition to the password, you have to provide a code. That provides huge amounts of extra security where other things don't so much. But the two password thing, it's an interesting, I mean, it definitely would be more secure, but I think having a single really, really good password, as we're going to discover in this lecture, is probably just as secure and far more convenient than the other. Yeah. Okay. So does anybody else have anything, any other characteristics of a password? There's a couple of things that weren't mentioned that are not like the specific, you know, characters related to the characters put in there, but are there some other features that we want to get out of a password? What are some other considerations that we should have? Okay, so security experts will tell you to change it periodically, and in fact, oftentimes you are forced to change your password, right? So you have to be able to change your passwords periodically, so that if it gets leaked out there, then you're not stuck. Johnny, yeah, capital, that's included. Uppercase letters are there. It's in our list. Mixing languages, that's interesting. There we go. Judy is one of the ones that that's one of the ones that I was kind of fishing for. There is the being easy to remember. That's definitely something. Okay, great. Thank you, Jerry and Jenny. That's another one that I was expecting to see on this list. Not personal, right? That's something we've all heard, like don't use stuff that's related to you and things like that, right? Easy to remember and not hard to type. Okay, great. I love this list, right? We've got some numbers, we've got some letters, we've talked about the length, we're talking about mixing uppercase and lowercase, we're talking about special characters, getting that punctuation in there, needs to be changed periodically. Mixing languages, that's an interesting one. Needs to be easy to remember and easy to type, not use personal information. There's one more thing that I think that you have probably been told a lot at this point, and wondering if anybody has any last thoughts before I just sort of mention the one that is very often said as something that you should not do when you are creating passwords. Carolyn, if you're going to do this one word at a time, we're never going to get out of here. There we go. Thank you. Perfect, Carolyn. That's exactly correct. And Judy also. Thank you. That's what I was fishing for there. Don't repeat passwords, right? They say don't use the same password at your bank that you use for your Facebook login, that you use for your Steam account or whatever it is, right? So here's the tricky thing. Here's the thing that blows everybody's minds, and here's the thing that is so strange. Almost nothing in this list really matters that much. There's only one thing here in this list that really, really, really matters, and we're going to discover what that is. And the reason why only one of these things really matters is we're going to dig into each one of these things, and we're going to talk about what really matters. We're going to start with that idea that we need to not use personal information. and things that are related to you. Because I think that what most people picture when they picture somebody trying to hack them, somebody trying to like break, you know, like that the reason your password needs to be good is because you're picturing this guy. You're picturing this guy sitting in his mom's basement, hacking away at your computer, right? Or we have visions of like movie scenes where somebody's like sitting down and like, all right, we need to break in here. What's his daughter's name? His daughter's name's Judy. All right, Judy, 1, 2, got it. Boom, we're in, right? And that, unless some of you, and it's possible some of you work for the CIA or are like, you know, bigwigs at some giant Fortune 500 company or something like that. But unless you are a very prominent person, the chances of there being a person trying to single-handedly hack your account and figure out your password is almost zero. We hardly ever see that happening. What mostly happens is that it's this guy. It's a computer that is attempting to break passwords. And this computer doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, has no idea what your hobbies are, has no idea what your birthday is, none of that. It's not going to go through all of the obvious things that are related to you. What it's gonna do is it's gonna search for every word in every dictionary in every language and try and match that to your password. It's going to do that first, and it's going to do that with every language with every dictionary in every language around the world in a matter of moments. Okay? It's going to do that very, very quickly. So if your password is a word, any word, this computer will find it instantly, more or less, relatively instantly, right? So even if that word is completely unrelated to you, you think, oh, look, this crazy weird word, onomatopoeia. Nobody associates onomatopoeia with me, right? Doesn't matter because the computer doesn't care. The computer's not trying to hack you. The computer is just taking this giant list of passwords and trying to crack all of them. And the easy ones, it will crack like that, and then it will move on. So we don't want to do that. It doesn't matter if it's not related to you. So we can cross that guy right off the list. What hackers are doing is they are shotgunning these passwords. They are just sending out computers to try and hack as many passwords as they possibly can, right? And take the low-hanging fruit first. So we don't need to worry about that part of it. Mm-hmm. The next part of it. So then let's talk about all those other things like special characters and uppercase and lowercase and we're going to set aside a couple of things. We're going to set aside for right now the idea that it needs to change and to not repeat. We'll address those in a little bit. Right now, I want to talk about the makeup of the actual characters. Should they be uppercase or lowercase, and should there be special characters, numbers, letters, etc.? And let's do a little bit of math here, shall we? Let's say I have a password that is 1 character long. Okay, that's as much as I get, 1 character. I've only done 1 character. And let's say that I'm restricted to letters only. How many possible options can there be if I restrict myself to letters only, 1 character? How many possible combinations of password can I have?
26.
26. Good. I'm glad somebody said that. That's only partly true, right? Because what if we count capital letters also? Now how many?
52.
52, right? Nice. Okay, we now have 52 combinations. A person, a cat, a reasonably intelligent monkey could figure out 52 combinations of passwords within a few minutes, right? Not that hard to do. Yes, Robin, other languages do have different letters. One of the problems with that is depending on the language you're talking about. If you're talking about a language that uses the same character set, then obviously they're the same. If they are different character sets, a lot of websites, a lot of different systems won't accept those other characters in the password fields. So you have to be kind of cautious with that. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. But yes, that is absolutely true. So, and we could expand at least to the characters like from Scandinavian languages. I think Karen's on here today. The Scandinavian languages with the, you know, dots and the umlauts and the stuff. So, but yes. Well, actually, it is 52 combinations because we only have one character. So the most number of combinations we can have is one for each character. So there's only 52 possible combinations that we can get if, again, we're restricting ourselves to Western languages here. And we could expand that a little bit with some others, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. If we add numbers, right, we get 62 because, and everyone always thinks it's 9 numbers, 1 through 9, but everyone forgets 0 is a digit also. So there's actually 10 more that we could add with 62 to get to 62, sorry. Okay, so that gives us 62 combinations, still quite trivial. But now let's add in the special characters, all right? There is generally recognized 33 safe special characters to use that pretty much every website password field will accept. There's about 33 of them. So if we add 33, we get 95 total characters. Again, I understand that there are other language sets and things, but to be really safe, we're going to restrict ourselves to 95. So that's including, so our list included like a mix of upper and lowercase, special characters, right? And honestly, even if I added like everything from like the entire ASCII set, which includes umlauts and other diacritical marks and all kinds of other, tilde, like tilde's in the 33, but like a bunch of other letters, the most we could get is 256. The most that we can get is 256 if we don't include like Asian characters and Sanskrit and Hindi, you know, like completely different Hebrew, very different alphabets, because that requires a whole new like language package and different keyboards and so right now we're just restricting ourselves to the Western set of characters. 95 is safe, 256 is the most. And there's not a single person here in this room that couldn't try 256 different combinations within a few minutes, right? It wouldn't take you that long to try that out. So even including all of those things, all of the crazy stuff that we included in our list, we still just don't have very many options. If we add a second character, now we have 2 characters possible. And let's go with the 95 because that's the safe set for almost everything. I'm going to table the question about VPNs. We'll talk about that later if we have time. Oh, an example of a 1-character password would be the number 3 or the letter Q. That would be a 1-character password, right? I mean, this is all theoretical, right? This is just so that we can see how these numbers work out. This is not because anyone would suggest you ever have a 1-character password. So if I have 2 possible characters and I'm working with the 95 possible characters, and let's say that I am allowed to repeat them, which is the more secure thing to do, how many possible combinations do I have? Do you have any math people in the audience who can tell me how many possible combinations we have if we have 2 characters? You don't have to tell me the number either. You can just tell me the way that you would get that number, unless you have a calculator and you can do it quickly. Yeah, good. All right.
5.
Yep, 95 squared, right? Which somebody did, it's 9,025 is 95 squared, at least I'm pretty sure it is. Even if it's 8,975, that would also be, you know, roughly, you know, same ballpark, right? So we just went from 95 possible passwords to 9,000 possible passwords. 9,000 is already a number that you as a human being would find very, very tedious to try and crack, right? But of course, we're worried about computers, not people. So that computer would then that it still would be basically instantaneous. So let's go up to 3, 95 cubed, 857,000 possible password combinations just by adding one more. This exponential growth means that the password combinations get really, really huge, really fast. 857,000 is already a number that a human would not ever want to actually go through. A computer would still do that very, very quickly. 95 to the 4th, 4 characters, right? Suddenly we're up to 81 million, right? This is why one of those items on the list was way more important than the others. Lynn, are you disagreeing with my math? No, okay, good. All right. Let's carry this all the way then to 95 to the 12th, right? If we set our minimum password length at 12, let's say, this is what that number looks like.
Wow.
5.4 times 10 to the 23rd. Mary, you're probably missing space, would be my guess. Space is generally counted as a special character that you can use. This is 540 sextillion possible password combinations. Somebody else posted earlier in the chat, I saw, stealing my thunder. I glossed right over it so that nobody would notice. That it's estimated that the number of grains of sand on our planet, on planet Earth, is about 7.5 quintillion. And we can see the orders of magnitude between a quintillion and a sextillion, right? So 7.5 quintillion, 7.5 times 10 to the 8th versus 5.4 times 10 to the 23rd, right? Sextillion, so 540 times 10 to the 21st. So there are more password combinations with a 12-character password than there is grains of, like orders of magnitude more password combinations than there are grains of sand on the planet. Think about that for just a moment. That tells us that password length is by far the most important element. As long as your password is not just a single word, like you could probably find a 12-letter word, right? But the computer will get that because it's in the dictionary. But as long as it's not a single word, length is the most important element, even if it doesn't have special characters, even if it doesn't have numbers, even if it doesn't mix capital and lowercase, because we can still take, like, 52, or let's see, that's upper and lowercase, right? That would be 52 times 10 to the 12th. Somebody do that math for me and post it in chat. What's 52 to the 12th power? Anybody have a calculator can do 52 to the 12th power? I mean, it's gonna be a gigantic number. like beyond a comprehension kind of number, okay? So even if we don't do all of those other special characters, length still wins. However, of course, there is a problem. Because this is important, that it's easy to remember. So I can't tell you how many times I went to, because I used to do like tech work in companies and stuff, and I would go to somebody's desk and I would just see a Post-it note on the monitor that had their password written on it. Or the like the real super spies of the group would put the Post-it under their keyboard, like they were like, ooh, yeah, we're hiding it from you, right? I mean, it's like, if your password is too hard to remember, and a lot of companies do this, right, where they make these really draconian rules, must have 3 characters and no 2 letters next to each other, and can't be this and can't be that, and 14, and all these requirements that you have to have, and then nobody can remember the stupid thing because it's so complicated, and so they write it down on a Post-it note and set it next to there. I have worked with a number of you, the specific people in this call right now, who I have seen your notebook full of passwords. I have seen the notebook that you keep, the little spiral bound notebook with a whole bunch of things scratched out and written and rewritten and like multiple pages and little Post-its in it and stuff. I have seen this. And while that is not so terrible, because chances are slender, again, like we're not that worried about the like personal attack. So it's unlikely somebody's going to be breaking into your house and then looking through your password book to break into your Citibank account. Like that's a pretty unlikely scenario to happen. They're just going to take the TV and leave or whatever. So, but even so, we would like for this to be easier to remember so that you don't have to look through that notebook. So you don't have to do all of that. I will mention here also password managers. Which there are a lot of them. Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yes, so password managers, the idea behind those is that they create very secure passwords for you for everything. And then and they keep it secured and locked up in a little vault on your computer. And then you only have to remember 1 password to get into the vault. And then the vault enters the passwords for everything that it saved passwords for and manages all of that for you. And no 2 passwords are the same, etc. I think password managers are great. I think they work quite well. I think that they can be a little bit harder to use for a lot of users because it requires, if you have more than 1 device, you have a phone, a computer, tablet, you have to install that password manager on all of them. And you have to make sure that they have internet access and that they're syncing up with each other. I think sometimes it can get confusing. I think there are a number of situations where you end up for one reason or another being on like a different device and you don't have your password manager and suddenly you can't get into anything. And the good ones cost money. I would not use a free password manager. So there are some disadvantages to using a password manager, but they're good, and we can talk about those another time. My preferred method. Now, okay, let me caveat this. Here at school, here on campus, we use a pretty fancy password manager that allows the tech department to share a vault of passwords because we have a lot of like common use servers and common accounts and things that we use for testing and things that have to be managed by multiple people. So we use a very fancy password manager that allows us to use shared resources to do all of that. But for my personal stuff, I prefer to just have really good passwords and just ones that I can remember and not have anybody managing them for me. So password managers are decent. They're okay. If you want to talk more about those at the end, we can, if you would like to. Yeah, Dashlane's great. I think Dashlane is a good company. I think they do good stuff. They have previously sponsored that How Secure Is My Password thing and stuff. Where do you keep my passwords? Boom. Personal. The school ones, like I said, they're all shared. My personal ones here. But let me explain why. Okay. Let me explain why, because you can do it too. You can keep your passwords in your head, and let me explain, or you can write it down in a way that is much more secure. So let's go through this project. Your minds are gonna be blown. I see like I don't even see everybody that's in this call, and I saw like half a dozen people shaking their heads like nope, can't do it. You're lying to us. No, you can't, I promise. All right. So no more passwords. I don't want anybody here to ever use a password again. What I want you to use instead is a passphrase. Because a passphrase is something that you can remember much more easily and is ultimately going to be more secure. What am I talking about? Yeah, it's okay, Prashant. Like, I guarantee that you are going to be able to remember this. All right. Somebody give me, I'm gonna just pick on somebody in here. Annie Holly, can you tell me a dessert you really like?
Mm.
Okay, coconut, love it. All right, let's do it this way. Coconut. All right, love it. Let's see, who else am I gonna pick on? Barbara Conroy. Barbara Conroy, can you tell me an animal you like? You can type it in chat or unmute. Either way. It's the part where I do a little dance to fill the dead air.
Whoops, got me.
Llama. Okay. I like llamas.
2 L's.
Yeah, there's 2 L's. Okay. With no other changes. Coconut, llama. 3 weeks. Not that great. Not that great, not yet. Let's just make one modification. The lime and the coconut. Nice. Okay. Let's see. Oh, actually, here, let's do it this way. Let's make one modification to this guy. We're just going to do what I call camel casing because the capital letters in the middle look like humps, right? So this is a camel case. So we're just gonna now change the capital, just change it so that each word is now capitalized. Cocoa, nut, llama. 300 years, all of a sudden. Out of nowhere, out of the blue. 300 years. Let me just count these. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Let's actually leave it like this. It's a good start.
Number 3 for S.
So that was something that nobody mentioned, right? Was the simple cipher. People used to call this leet speak, where you substitute letters for numbers, right? Like where 3 equals E and 5 equals S and 7 equals T, so forth. And that can be good too, a good way to add numbers, but it can complicate things. I can guarantee that everybody tonight, when you're trying to go to sleep, the one phrase is gonna be running through your head is gonna be coconut llama. Just gonna be like stuck in your head and you're gonna be like coconut llama, coconut llama, coconut llama. You'll remember that forever. All right. So now let's add a little bit of something extra to this, okay? Let's go ahead and put in a special character, but let's make these special characters meaningful. Let's just see what happens when we add in, let's say, a $sign.
Hmm.
Sure, or exclamation point, whatever. Okay. because we've increased the length by 1 is part of the reason for this, right? Let's not forget that what we've done is we've just increased the length by 1, and we've added a piece of punctuation. And I would hazard to suggest that Coconut Llama, even without this, is probably more than 300 years. I think that this particular estimation is actually not taking into account some things, and I think it would be longer. But all we have to do is add 1 more character and make it a piece of punctuation, and suddenly we're at 400,000 years. Let's talk quickly about that. I'm going to skip this for a moment because I want to do this in a different order. Okay. So we talked about punctuation, and we talked about, actually, no, you know what? I'm sorry. I am going to go back to talk about why we're going to use this punctuation. Sorry for the back and forth there. Let's go back to here. So as we said, one of the things you've heard is to never, ever, 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 ever use the same password for more than 1 site. Well, actually, you totally probably can use the same password in a site. For different sites, the only reason not to is if you happen to be on a site that maybe is a little bit sketchy, right? If it's a site that's not very trustworthy, and that site, you're worried about their own ability to keep things secret, or if they're not encrypting passwords or whatever, then maybe you want to use a different password there than anywhere else. But I would also suggest that you not spend much time on sketchy websites, and certainly don't create accounts on sketchy websites. Please, please, please don't be giving private information like entering a password on a site that is not somebody trustworthy. And if it is somebody trustworthy, then the password, when you enter your password on their site and they store it in their database, that password is encrypted. So here on the screen, I've got like a little icon of a database. That's just a sort of universal symbol for database. And when the hackers get into that database, like let's say hackers break into target.com and they steal the database of all the user accounts on target.com, what they see for passwords looks kind of like this. They see a bunch of hashed and salted passwords. They don't see the actual passwords. They see this encrypted password. And if your encrypted password is something good, right, and takes like 1 trillion years for it to be cracked, then they're going to leave that password alone. They're going to turn their computers over to it. It's going to be crunching on, and they're just going to abandon it because it's going to take too long. But the person who's using password 1234, whose password gets cracked right away, they're going to grab that password and store it. The other thing that database has in it, here's where the real problem. So they can access your account on that website, right? Like on target.com. But usually Target knows when they've been hacked, so they'll instantly start putting the word out, getting people to change their passwords, whatever. If your password, though, was crackable, if you had a really easy password and they were able to crack that password, that encrypted password from the database, now they know your password is 1234. Well, guess what else is in that database? Your username. So then what the hackers will do, so now they've got your username and your password from that database. They will now go to every random site. They don't know if you have an account at Citibank, but every single account that they manage to find a password for, they're going to go to Citibank and they're going to try that username and password combination at Citibank, at Wells Fargo, at the IRS, wherever they can possibly enter a username and password, they're going to try it. And it's not a person, it's a computer doing this and doing it very, very rapidly, right? And all they need is a couple of hits. One person who had a crappy password on Target, who used the same crappy password for their Wells Fargo account, and suddenly the hackers can link those 2 accounts up. They can get into your Wells Fargo account, take your money, whatever, right? But if your password was not easy to crack in the first place, right? If it takes 1 trillion years to get your target.com password, they're not even going to try to get into Citibank or Wells Fargo because they don't know what your password is. So that account, they're just going to write down and say, okay, these one, and they're going to take all the low hanging fruit. All of the people who had terrible passwords, they're going to take all of those accounts and they're going to try them on these other ones. So if your passphrase, we're going to start using the word passphrase, if your passphrase is really, really secure, really good, really strong, then it's okay to reuse it in multiple places because it's always going to be encrypted. Nobody's ever going to figure out what it is unless you tell them or unless you make a grievous error. But if it's really good and it's really secure and really secret, no one's ever going to get it. You're okay. But let's do it anyway. Right? Let's go ahead and add that special character. So here in this case, we've added a $sign to this. Now what you can do is instead of having a notebook or a Post-it note with the full password, you can have a list that looks like this. Because now you know that Coconut Llama is going to be the beginning part of every password you use. Every passphrase you use on every account, every website is just going to be Coconut Llama. Obviously, don't use Coconut Llama, use your own. But if you just use that beginning part, Coconut Llama, and then right after it comes a symbol, then you can write down a little code book here that just says $ is bank. Hashtag are my social accounts. That way you can, if you feel better about not repeating, then you can do it this way and you can write this down. And anybody who finds this note, anybody who finds this list can't do anything with it. There's nothing they can do with that because they don't know the first part of the passphrase. And by the way, the passphrase doesn't need to be a dessert and an animal. It could be a couple of words from the first line of the chorus of your favorite song, or a couple of lines from a poem or a book, or some other phrase that runs through your head. All it needs to be is 2 random unrelated words that have a fair number of characters. Like if the animal, I wouldn't use dog. I would instead, like if you are into greyhounds, use greyhound instead of dog, right? You know, so that you can have those extra characters. And that passphrase can be whatever you want, and you can add on this special character. And we've seen now, when we add that special character, we suddenly get up into that realm of extremely secure passwords, right? 400,000 years. There's one last thing that we need to account for, and that is that your password sometimes needs to change, right? If you are forced by your work or your school or some other thing, or you just want to change it periodically to maintain healthier security, a great way to do this. Judy, let me answer that question in just one moment. If the is to have an iteration at the end, right? A number. No automated password changing system requires more than 10. If your password was one thing, like let's say your password was vanilla hippo, and then you're required to change your password, and you put in vanilla hippo again, they'll say, sorry, you can't use the same password. So let's say you put in vanilla hippo 1. And then the next time you change your password, you just try to do vanilla hippo. It will say, nope, you used that password 2 times ago. So you can't do that, right? And it goes back a number of different password changes. And the most I usually see is 6. Like you can't use any of the last 6 passwords that you've had. Never, ever, ever even seen one go up to 10. But this system would allow you to have 10 passwords that you would iterate through, so that your one password would be vanilla hippo 1. Then they make you change your password. So then you do vanilla hippo 2, and then vanilla hippo 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then all the way through 0. And by the time you loop back around to 1 again, that system has forgotten that you ever used vanilla hippo 1 as one of your passwords. And so you can iterate through these numbers. And in fact, if we go ahead and add a 1 to the end of this, now all of a sudden, 200 million years incredibly easy to remember because we know that this is Coconut Llama, and we know that we're on the first iteration, or even if we don't remember which iteration, we can just go through a couple of times. Oh, shoot, am I on 6 or 7? I'll try 6, then 7. Then you're not going through a whole bunch of weird, different passwords that are completely unrelated. You know it's always going to be Coconut Llama as the first part. Always going to be Coconut Llama for everything. Then you can look at your little cheat sheet and know that, oh yeah, it's Coconut Llama ampersand, and I'm on my 6th iteration, and we have an incredibly secure password. There's a question, Judy asked, why can't the hacker recognize 2 words if they can recognize all words? And that's because they have no idea where words begin and end. What they're actually doing, when we say that they are comparing words, what they're doing is, so my password, let's say my password was just coconut, just the word coconut. And to make it simple, we'll just do all lowercase, right? What the dictionary is going to do, or what the computer program is going to do when it's searching, is it's going to start with the A words. I don't know, this is just the first A word that came into my head, right? It's going to try the first word in the dictionary, abacus, and it's going to compare, is abacus equal to coconut? No, because it doesn't know this word. All it knows is that there is a word here, and it's going to try it. And it's going to say, okay, so abacus, and then, I don't know, anvil. Nope, still didn't match. And it's going to go through go through all of them. Bedroom. Nope, wasn't that. And then eventually it will get to coconut, and it will compare the encryption for coconut, and it will be a match. And it'll say, oh, it was coconut. And then it'll get a match. But the moment I have another word in there, now, no matter what words it combines, it has no idea where the words are split up, right? It can test the word coconut and it can test the word llama, but neither of those is ever going to combine those two. Now, you might ask, can it combine every word with every word and have like every word combined with every other word? And yes, but that would take ages. Even that would start to make even a computer start to sweat a little bit, trying to figure out how to do those combinations, because it'd have to do it in both orders and everything. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the session. So yeah, please go forth now and go through your passwords and start changing them. And I think you will find, if you use this scheme, if you use something like this, multiple words that are strung together, and then just like a nice little code at the end with a number and a symbol, you will become much happier about trying to maintain your own passwords. And it's much safer, and you can have much more secure passwords. Proper names are fine, like, doesn't matter. You can even use your own name, right? Like, you could use your own name. And so, like, what if I were to do, we could even test this. I know I'm getting close to the end of the time here, but I'm going to do Lynn, and then I used Greyhound before, and symbol and a number, and we're at 15 billion years, right? So this idea that you should never, now, a lot of systems, if they won't let you use your name if they see it in there, but the thing is that all this idea about don't use your name, sure, use your name. I don't care, it doesn't matter. Because again, the computer is not trying to match you with your password. It's just trying to crack the password, right? And if you sufficiently obfuscate it by adding another word in there, Lynn Greyhound, then you are golden. And you will have very, very secure pass. So again, let's get away from the idea of passwords and instead think of pass phrases. Okay, any other questions? What if you are limited to only 8 characters? If a website or other system is limiting you to 8 characters, I would think twice about signing up or registering for that particular website, because I don't trust them. If they're limiting me to 8 characters, that's bad, bad, bad security. And I question their ability to even encrypt things properly at the other end of it. The recordings on YouTube, that the YouTube is the service, but if you go to the village's website, SantaFeVillages.com, I think it is, or villagesantafe.com, then they'll be posted there in the blog. Yeah, this passphrase idea is extremely well known, but it doesn't matter because it works. Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much. Donations can be sent to, I should say tips can be sent to ambrose.ferber@gmail.com. Okay. Thank you so much. Any other questions about passphrases in particular? Or pass, and if you want to stick around for a few minutes, and I don't know if we need the Zoom for another class, but I can stick around for a few minutes after if anybody
Yeah.
wants to hang out and talk
Question?
about something. Yeah.
Anne? I had a question, Sharon.
Yeah, yeah.
And are there any rules about
Go
user?
ahead. Sharon, go ahead.
Are there any rules about usernames?
Yeah, really only in that they are, sometimes you're restricted in the characters you can use. Like a lot of people don't want, it's important that there be certain characters that are not there. So they'll restrict you from that. Often you can't start with a number or a special character. It has to start with a letter. These days, most usernames are actually just your email address because site owners have discovered that that's just so much easier. People remember it, they know it. It's just simplifies the whole process. As far as safety goes, I don't really worry so much about like trying to have a secure username. The only issue is that your email address, if it's stored, if bad guys get into the database and steal your username, if it's your email address, they'll sell your email address to spammers, which means you'll get more spam, but it doesn't actually compromise your security very much.
Ambrose,
Yeah.
what about the security questions that you get asked on some sites? And they're always asking you,
Yeah.
so you remember it, your personal information, but once you give that to one entity, then it's out there.
So that's an entirely other presentation. The security question thing, I think, is one of the most seriously flawed ideas anyone has ever had when it comes to security. And I never answer those security questions honestly. I have pat answers that I use for them that are the same every time I answer them with a lie. Like the lies are always the same lies so that I know what to use when I have to interface with it that way. But I think those things are terrible and they're actually being phased out. You see that less and less often now, having those security questions. So yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the lie is. It's just that you remember it. So you answer the same one all the time.
I do, which is also not that secure because again, if that information is not encrypted, then they get it, they could try it on another site. So that's one reason why they are such a terrible idea. But the other reason that they're terrible is that that information is often discoverable about a person. And so I really don't like and I think that they're silly. I think that having people remember those answers, like the exact way that they typed it and everything, I just think it's a pain. And I think two-factor authentication is a much better way of recovering a lost password than those security questions. So
Yeah, but we may not have any choice in that.
it's true. But I lie with them all the time.
Okay.
Let's see, there's a question here from Lazalier. If you just have them give you a new authorization each time you use sites like companies where you shop. Yeah, you can do that. I think it's good to have a good passphrase scheme just so that it's easier to just log into sites and just be able to move forward more quickly and easily. But sure, it's a decent strategy to just be like, I forgot my password, just change your password every time you go by having it send you an authorization. Sure, I think it's a little, for me, that would be a little cumbersome, I guess. If someone has my email password, can they follow me from email to my bank login and see my password? Well, if somebody has, having your email password compromised is dangerous, because if somebody has access to your email, then they often have access to password recovery. Then they can go to any site and initiate a password recovery. And if they have access to your email, they can view it in your email. They can, confirm that password recovery process. So losing your email passphrase can be especially dangerous. And if they have access to your email, then they can see that you get emails from Wells Fargo or whatever. And so for a more targeted attack, like again, not a machine attack, but if somebody is actually gaining access to your stuff and is doing it on a personal level, which, as I said, is more rare, much more rare, then losing access to email or having your email access compromised is significantly more dangerous than many other things because you can do so much with that. So keep that well in hand for sure. I keep a list in my Outlook of passwords. Yeah, I've seen that, Lynn. It's not ideal. I usually recommend that when people have password lists that they're maintaining, that they actually do it on paper and keep that paper well secured. Unless you can sort of like double encrypt something that's on your hard drive or in your Outlook has network access. So again, somebody gaining access to that through other means could access that document. And so it's less safe than many other solutions. So I would recommend you take that out of Outlook. I know it's convenient to have it there, but yeah, sure. LastPass is good. KeepPass, LastPass, Dashlane, Keeper, they're all good. I don't know of any of and I'm pretty sure those all cost money. I think there's a free tier, but if you're going to use a password manager, then paying for it is a good idea. They're not terribly expensive. I don't remember. I don't use one, so I don't remember what they cost. But yeah, LastPass, I've heard good things. Again, I've never used it, so I can't give you personal experience, but I've heard nobody say anything particularly terrible about it. Anything else? Any other questions?
But
yeah, Harriet.
oh, good, because it's so hard to write this out. There's two things. The actual question is, my Apple ID, for some reason a long time ago, I had to change it, and I only changed a few things. And so sometimes I can't get it at all, can't use it at all. And it's only because I kept it the same probably, except for the last four numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why? But it gets to be a headache because sometimes it won't accept either one.
Yeah. Yes. So Apple's protection of accounts is excessive, I think. Nobody makes you jump. If you forget a password from an Apple account, it can become an absolute nightmare that ultimately often requires a trip to the Apple store in Albuquerque to resolve, where you can show an ID and they can like reset things for you. And it's a little bit crazy. And I have banged my head many times for clients from my own personal life with Apple accounts and passwords and password recovery. Google doesn't do it that way. Microsoft doesn't. Apple's the only one who has this extreme password recovery sort of system in place. And a lost Apple password can be very difficult to deal with. But you should be able, if all else fails, you should be able to go down to Albuquerque, make an appointment at the Apple store, go down to Albuquerque and have one of the geniuses reset it when you can verify your identity with them if all else fails. But yes, it's probably just because you switched it and then you didn't know, and then you tried a couple of different variations and then it locked it and then you couldn't access it, and then you were like, then you waited like 24 hours and then you tried it again and it locked. And so yes, that's why. Somehow, some way, there is a password that works with your Apple account, though. I will say that, Mike.
Okay, I have something, the other thing is that I have something fortunately in spam and I don't open it up, but I look at what this spam is and it shows part of my email and then some letters and questions.
So that is to get past spam filters is what they're doing there. Because remember, so I mean, they have your email address, right? Because they sent you an email. So one way or
Correct.
another, they found your email address. So so they have it and they can do stuff with it and they do these weird things. And I'm not a spammer, surprisingly enough. So I can't say for sure exactly like what they're doing, but because I've seen some very strange behaviors from spammers where I'm like, what's the end goal here? But using part of your email address prevents spam filters from filtering out that message. And by adding extra characters into the email address, they are making it so it's not just your email address. It's sort of like it's there, but it's not there. And so the spam filters get confused.
Ambrose, Cassandra Davis has a question.
Okay, yes, Cassandra.
How many digits?
How many digits should your passphrase be?
Yes.
I like 12 as a minimum. My personal one, the one that I did there that was like, 8 non-million years or whatever it was, I believe is 17 characters long. That's obviously extreme. But I like 12. 12 seems to give like a really good amount. 10 is okay. I mean, that's usually just fine. 8, which is like the current recommendation that you see on a lot of sites, is like minimum 8 characters. Excuse me. Is a little low.
Bless you.
Thank you. 8 with modern computers, ability to brute force passwords. 8 is actually a little bit low. So I would say 10 at the minimum, 12 is great. Over 12 is awesome.
Ambrose,
Ambrose?
Yeah.
I don't think you
yeah,
see
go for it, Tom.
my question is on the chat, but
Oh, yeah, which Ann actually answered. No, it's fine to have a lot of places use your email address as your username. That's very common, very usual these days, and doesn't represent much of a security or even
Okay.
privacy threat. Like, I guess a little bit of a privacy concern, but not too bad.
as long as we have a good password along with that, it shouldn't be a problem.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Sharon, yeah, Sharon, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know how to use the chat.
That's all right.
I'll ask Ann that later. So I have a Mac, and so when I'm doing some things, then it says, take this strong password from the computer. So sometimes I do. And is that okay? Because I have no idea what it is. But it's, so I did that yesterday when I was setting up something.
So
And then
that's
I
probably.
save it so that when I go back in, I've got it.
So yeah, so that's Safari or Chrome doing that,
Right.
probably Safari.
Safari.
And those passphrases that it comes up with are very strong and very secure. And as long as it's saved, that's okay. You can totally do that. It means that you don't know what the passphrase
Yes.
is for that site. So if
Because I
you're
would be
ever in a
nervous doing
situation-
that on my social security site.
Yeah, so it's like if you don't know the passphrase, that can be annoying, or it's never a disaster to not know, because you can always reset. Unless sometimes the reset process, like if you set it up with an old email and then you try and reset the password and it sends the confirmation to an old email account that you no longer have access to, like bad things can come about as a result of that. But it's not like usually the end of the world to just use the ones that Safari suggests for you and have Safari save them. It's safe enough to do. I find I like to just have my passphrase for everything, and I have a very strong passphrase that's not going to be cracked, and I use it for everything, and then I know what it is and I can always access it without any kind of saved things or anything like that.
So if I want to go through and change on my long list of passwords to my special phrase, then when I get to those that I let Safari set up, I can just say change it or forgot it or
Yeah, you can just say forgot password and then it'll let you change it.
even though it's saved, I can still.
Even though it's saved, and then Safari will prompt you to save the new one. I'm just gonna answer this one last question from Elia, and then I'm gonna sign off because we're at 2:15 now. Elias, if you spell the phrase backwards, does it increase security? Not really. I mean, maybe a little bit. But whatever minimal gains you get from security, you probably lose in typability. It's just a lot harder to remember and a lot harder to type when it's backwards, and it's easier to mess it up. You might gain a little bit of security, but it's probably not worth it. Okay, cool. Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
Very
Ambrose.
active, and
Thank
we'll
you
see
so much.
all in a couple of weeks.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll be
you.
sending
Bye-bye.
out-
Thank you.
Love you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll be sending out the presentation tomorrow, all right? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And can I ask
you,
you a
Ann.
question?
Bye.